All right. Good Merlin. um,
Good Marley.
I'm here with Oppa, aka Tim Saunders, aka Pop Star Timmy. So I guess I'll start here. Tim Saunders is your music name. Like you actually put out music under Tim Saunders. You just came out with the album Calvin 3, which is now on Spotify. That just came out on your birthday, right? Was June
Yeah,
6th?
June 5th. Yeah, the 5th.
5th. My bad. I was
Yeah,
off by. But yeah. Happy belated, by the way.
appreciate it,
Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, but yeah, that is out on. I was listening to it on Spotify. I don't know what other streaming platforms it's on.
All of them. It's on all of them. It's on Apple Music, Tidal,
Okay.
anywhere that got music streaming.
All right, cool. And then you also, I guess, what was it, just yesterday that you had a 2v2 drop on iBattle, Oppa and Eunice versus Chunk and Knox. And then like not even a couple weeks ago, you had a Oppa versus Los Preem drop on the iBattle YouTube.
Yes,
So
sir.
you've been fucking busy. I mean, like you doing one thing or another. You're either like putting out music or you're putting out battles or something. Um, yeah, I mean, like before I even get into that, I guess maybe I'll start by asking, like, where do you feel like you get that work ethic from? Like, what is it more so? What is it driving you to be as engaged as you are? Because I feel like I can see it. Like, I don't have to dig too deeply. If I'm like kind of just around battle rap, I can kind of view and be like, okay, these people are active, these people are making moves, these people, and it's not even just battle rap, but in general, like everywhere I look, I see you, right? Whether I'm in the Twitter spaces, if I'm on Facebook, or if I'm like everywhere I go, you're always involved, you're always like I don't know if networking is the right word, but to a degree, whether it's like intentional or not, right?
Yeah,
There's still a level of like networking happening where you're just, you know so many people. You're constantly involved in all of the social circles, and that I think is really like the path to like anywhere, like not even just battle rap,
mm,
outside of battle
yeah,
rap. If you go into computer programming and you happen to know certain connections, you get to wherever the hell you want to get to. And
yeah.
I feel like you're there in battle rap. So what is it that kind of like motivates you, or what is it that drives you to kind of like stay, or you're just like an extroverted person? Are you an extrovert? Like I think you're an extrovert.
I'm a bit of an omnivert. Like I'm very extroverted, but I definitely need my moments to like recharge, kind of like isolate and stuff like that. But I think for me, the main motivating factor is I love creating. Like I love creating stuff, whether it be like working on music, whether it be working on the battles. I used to write scripts, used to write stories and everything like that. Like this,
Right.
or even we run a WWE 2K show in the Discord. Like I just like creating and working with stuff. And I realized making connections is the best way to facilitate that. It helps like continue, yeah, it helps the workflow continue because you get more cooks in the kitchen, obviously, and it also help you have access to stuff you didn't have access to before. And as far as like with networking, I realized people don't really remember details very much. They were more so remember feelings. They remember how like they remember energy.
Vibes.
They remember how people made you feel. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And so I think leaving a positive impact on people and a positive impression is just very important to
Yeah.
like just continuing to go. So we're going because you might not remember every bar I said or every song I made, everything, but you remember. I like Appa because he's always personable. I like him because he's always like he doesn't act too Hollywood. He's not too I'm too busy to do anything. Just always remember. Okay, yeah, he's just a genuine person. I think that's a very important thing.
Yeah, and I was actually gonna kind of bring that up, and I was planning to do it maybe later, but I guess that's another thing I was thinking about. Like, in terms of this overall podcast, like, I don't exactly know. Like, I'm evolving it as I go, pretty much the same way. Like, I always like looked at like learning how to rap and all this other stuff, where I'm like, okay, I'll try things out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then I'll try to adjust to like whatever seems to be making more of a impact or whatever. And so I'm still like torn between trying to figure out like, okay, is this a battle rap podcast or is it something different? I definitely don't want it to be a typical battle rap podcast. Like the typical battle
Yeah,
rap podcast is like, "Hey Appa, who do you want to battle? Loaded Lux or Daylight
yeah,
or?" And like these are all people that like we know because we're in the battle rap community. But if you're not in the battle rap community, even like the biggest names in the community a lot of people don't know who they are, and like so. Outside of the scope of battle rap, nobody really would be into that content. I even as a battle rapper, I know who all those people are, and I really don't care that much about like
Yeah.
I want to know who you're battling in the future, but I want to know who you're battling, not like my wish list of battlers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went on a whole tangent, but like in terms of let's go ahead and like veer into battle rap for a little bit, and then hopefully maybe get our way out of it. But starting with that, there are so many people. I would say like 90%, if not 95%, I think of all battle rappers that I know tend to be very what's the word? They just take it personally, I think sometimes when somebody doesn't like them, or they just they take it personally if they lose or something like that, and so they sometimes they crash out, using it a very like light term of crash out, but you know what I mean. Like you've seen it where like people just kind of like get all worked up. Oh, you're like, you don't think I'm this good, blah blah blah, you don't like my stuff, and you're very much not that person. You are like, if this was NBA 2K, right, you are like, those interviews they would do in like my career, like you always give the cordial, like, this is the professional answer,
and you get points for your answer.
Yeah. Where you're just like, oh yeah, that increased your teammate grade, but like, it doesn't like increase your popularity or whatever. But yeah, that I feel like sometimes, and maybe I want to kind of crack through that a little bit. But maybe like sometimes it might come off as a little inauthentic. I do genuinely believe that you don't really have I don't think you're like taking it personal when people are like, oh, this person won or whatever, but I mean, I still know that like you're a human with emotions, so you're gonna feel a certain way, like the controversial one, and maybe this is getting into battle rap. I want to give a little bit of backstory, so like I don't know if I want to go into the whole thing, but at least right now, let's just talk about iBattle. You were the champion at iBattle for a while, which is a rap battle league in Staten Island. And you were the champion for 2 years. What was the exact number of days? I know
973.
973 days as champion of the league, which is unheard of, right? Like I don't think there, even in battle rap as a whole, there's been any run that long. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but it's definitely up there. And so you had a battle recently, I guess. Not couple. When was the battle? Like I know it just got released on YouTube.
Like late April.
Okay, so it did have a delay before it got released.
Yeah, about a month and a half ago.
Yeah. But you had a battle with Los Preem. Los Preem has already, he's been making a name for himself. He actually had a line in that battle that I think really kind of simplified, like it symbolizes what I think that battle really, like how it looked on paper, which was like that, you're not battling him to prove that you can take, or like what was it? Something like you're battling me to prove you can keep it, right? Like that, that sounded so accurate. Kind of just because like Los Preem has done such a really good job of like, he's gone out there, he's beaten person after person, and then you get into the championship match, and now it's you versus Los Preem. You've been the champion for all this time, but there are a lot of people who are saying that, oh, Los Preem is going to win because of all of the impact that he's been making. And so this is a big moment, I think, in iBattle history for sure, where you've been the champion for this long period of time, and then you end up losing the battle. It was judged in a tournament, and there's all kinds of controversy around judging and rap battling, which is why, like, for the most part, rap battling stopped doing judging. People got too emotional about it. Yeah, but like
that's why iBattle is one of the only leagues that has a lot of judge battles, because I feel like if other leagues had as many judge battles as iBattle, like the roster would just deplete.
I love the idea of records. I love the idea of like just being able to say definitively like, oh, like this is, I don't know. I think it feels like there's more of a point. Otherwise, I'm just going out there to rap, which is fine sometimes, but like. So you did this battle with Los Preem, and the judges said that you lost the battle. And that, it's debatable. I personally felt you won that battle. There are a lot of people, if you look at like even the comments on YouTube, that will say that, okay, I think Oppa got it. So I mean, like, how do you navigate all of that emotionally, right? Like, how do you navigate it where you like, you gotta have some kind of feeling. Like, I know it's like the way that you typically answer questions. It tends to be
Yeah.
like, oh, like Lowe's Prim did a great job. I did my best. And again, this is like the kind of professional NBA 2K type
Yeah,
of
yeah, the
answer.
PR response, the PR
Right, right, right.
response. Yes.
So what do you really feel like? And I mean, I know like you're a positive person, but like
Yeah.
like how do you grapple with all of that?
Well, for this particular one, it is less of a like emotional response because like of course emotionally if you feel like you won a battle and it's judged and you lost the battle, it's like, oh man, like I really especially if you watch it back and you feel like you won. But for this battle in particular, I was one of the ones going into it where I kind of didn't have any expectation, to be honest. Like all my previous battles for the headband, I was like, okay, I pretty much know what the judges are looking for. I know what I can lean towards, that the judges will lean towards me on this. For this one, I was like, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to put together my 3 favorite rounds I've ever put together. That way, regardless of what Los does versus me or what the judge's decision is, I'll leave happy with my performance. So that's the main thing. Now, of course, would you like to get to 1,000 days? Obviously, I was like, if I beat Los, I would have been at 1,000 days.
Right.
But I think the outpour and just seeing like the response the battle is getting, not the people saying that I won, but even the people saying Los won, the general consensus is that's one of the best battles that iBattle's ever had.
Yeah.
So,
and I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's another thing too. It's like, for me, it's like I've had so many judged battles for the headband. The idea of losing the headband isn't like ripping a band-aid off for me because I was thinking about that going into my first defense against King Jables. I'm thinking, okay, he's a veteran. I might like lose the headband here. I'm going into my battles with JR, with Def the Kid, with Dexter, with Tariq. I'm going into all of these headband battles thinking like, well, this could be the last one. That's kind of the whole thing. And especially when you're in a tournament situation too, where you're putting the headband on the line throughout the rounds of the tournament, I was like, hey, this is pretty risky. If I lost the headband, I'd probably be in this situation. But and to segue into your original point about just fans in general and like battlers that kind of have adverse reactions to fans, it's a difficult thing because on one hand we're all artists and artists. I forgot who's the I'm trying to think who originally said this quote. I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. I'm trying to remember. It's such a fire quote. But that's kind of like how it is when you're art. Like you put your time and effort, and then depending on the type of writer you are, even your emotion or life experiences into some art. Is someone go, that shit's ass. It's kind of like, it's like, of course it will sting, but at the same time, I have to remind myself that I was once, before I was a battle rapper, a battle rap fan. And when I was a battle rap fan and I was critiquing battle rap, I didn't care about how long it took the battler to write this. I didn't care about how much they put into it. If I thought it sucked, I was like, yeah, it's his ass. Other person 3-0. And I was moving on my day. And so I always try to put my
probably
shit.
fucked up somebody's day. They're just like sitting in the shower, like, what the fuck is this motherfucker? I lost 3-0.
There's probably live battlers right now that I'm probably like friends with or I've met at events that they're probably, if they could see like my old comments when I was a fan, they'd be like, oh, I lost 3 to this nigga, huh? I was like, oh, my fault. I gotta rewatch it. But and it's just like, so I try to put myself in that shoes as a fan on one side, and then also as a fan, there's battlers who when I first started watching battle rap, I was not a fan of. I just didn't like them. And then as I learned more about battle rap and understood it more, I grew to appreciate them. So I think battlers like that, or like that shows you that as a battler, the person that just said, "Oh, you suck," you like if someone says, "Oh, Low Supreme 3-0, Oppa was terrible. Where he didn't have enough punches. He sucks," right? Maybe in 3 years they'll be commenting on one of my battles and be like, "Yo, I didn't really like Oppa, but he kind of grew on me. I'm an Oppa fan now. I think he won this battle." You never know. If you just jump out the window and jump on that person immediately, that would never happen. Because then they'll only remember the interaction with you more than they'll remember your material, and you'll never get a fair shake with them. So you got to be mindful of that as well. But it's,
I
it's
think
a little difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a very like good point. That's one I never really thought of. There are some battlers who like their reputation precedes them. Like even before you, like, if you're, especially if you're like a new fan, if you don't really know what's going on, who's who, you can immediately
Mhm.
find out like, oh, this person's an asshole. And you're like,
Yeah.
like if you're on Twitter, I'm not going to name names, but like there's a
Mhm.
lot of people just like that kind of, they don't know when to just, be quiet, let the fans be like wild. Like imagine like,
Yeah.
imagine all the shit that like, if you're like Tory Lanez or fucking, whoever, like all the comments you get on the internet, like how do you just like distill, you can't be.
Also, especially in battle rap too, because I feel like because battle rap is so aggressive, and the whole thing is, oh, I'm going at you, attacking you attacking your character, disrespect, and all that. That kind of trickles into the fan base. That's kind of their way of participating. Like,
Right.
so I think they're always looking for like reasons to dislike you, not necessarily just they're just like oh, I'm just having a bad day, I'm just gonna like pick a random battle to hate on. I mean, well, I've seen that too, but it's mostly like them like, okay, I'm watching the second you do something or that they don't like or piss them off, they're gonna attack it. So I think the best way to go about that is give them less reasons to dislike you. If you're arguing with them, attacking them about their opinions, then it gives you more reasons. And then also, of course, you got the respectful fans too. There's some of those where they'll just simply state their opinion, and those people getting attacked is kind of crazy to me, because it's like, well, he didn't really say anything besides this bar could have been better, or he didn't like this.
Yeah. I
There's always
mean,
a way
like,
to say that. Well,
yeah, it's definitely a matter of like, some people like if you get like bent out of shape over that, like you definitely have some kind of level of insecurity, I think, within yourself where you're
mm,
just like you're so worked up over somebody being like, this could have been better. Like, like it's not even like, oh, this is ass or whatever. But all
yeah,
right, I guess what I want to do real quick is kind of give a little bit of backstory about battle rap in general, because again, like I don't know who like watches it, and
yeah,
so I think it's a little hard to tell your story, or at least the story that I would like to tell, at least right now, without talking about like some things that like are worth talking about. So first of
mm,
all, if anybody doesn't know, I would say that the number one and number two battle rap leagues in the world are number one URL, number two King of the Dot, like based on reputation, notoriety, things they've done in the past. I
yeah,
think I think it's probably fair to say that those two are like the top two, and that like after that, three, four, five, like there's a lot of different leagues that are worth talking about. I think iBattle is one of those leagues. I think OSBL is one of those leagues. I think Gates of the Garden, Queen of the Ring. There's so many that are worth talking about and like
mhm,
arguing who's three, four, and five. But let's focus on iBattle and OSBL just a little bit. And I want to also point out that around the pandemic, I rap battling, like everything else, kind of like shut down for a little while. A lot of people like went online, and they weren't allowed to do like live events with a lot of people in them. So it fizzled out a little bit. Some of the crowd, support for rap battling fizzled out. King of the Dot, which was like a really big league, kind of stopped putting out as many like events, and overall, it felt like the scene was dying, and there's still always people talking about, oh, the rap battling scene is dying. But like, so around that same time, around I don't know the exact date, but around like probably pandemic or maybe pre-pandemic, you were kind of getting like starting into rap battling, but you were doing it online, right?
yeah,
So I don't know the exact origin, but I know at one point you were battling on Twitter Spaces before you were battling live, and
yeah.
you were also doing like kind of like impression battles where you kind of like do like impressions of other like live battle rappers, and like for people that aren't in the battle rap scene, it's worth noting that like we have our own celebrities, and these are people that like everybody in the battle rap community knows. If you're on URL, if you're on King of the Dot consistently, pretty much everybody knows who you are. There's a good chance you're making like some money. If you're like one of the top people, you might be making 100 grand or more. Some people can go on to like Wild and Out, which is like even more mainstream, but it's like a watered down PG-13 version of what we do. So I mean, like, there's still a lane to make money in battle rap, even though it's like a very like not a lot of people are going to get to that endpoint. But what I wanted to draw attention to was that a lot of the veterans in battle rap had kind of been moving on. They've been around for 10 years, 15 years, some of them. And we all know who they are. They're legends. We all respect them. But there's also I think a sense within the battle rap community of getting tired of the same names, the same, like eventually you're gonna get tired of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, and you need Stone Cold and The Rock, right? You need like a new generation of talent that comes in and basically takes the company to the higher, not the company, but like, battle rap as a whole to like the next level. And so I think, you are part of like the beginning of that new generation, along with Eunice and along with like a lot of other people who are like battling in Twitter spaces, where you started out battling online on Twitter. You're doing these like impression battles, you're doing regular battles, and you kind of like become known. You're like, I know there's like people are like betting on your battles and stuff, and like so you kind of both made a name for yourself, and it's hard to really kind of. I think in a way, you and Eunice are both kind of intertwined together. Whether you're both incredible in your own right, but you're also like kind of like Goku and Vegeta, and y'all can argue over who's who. But there's no way to really separate the two, because like you've done 2v2s together, you've done a 1v1 together, you have so much history. Like I don't think that this is the end of the story that y'all have together. And so I say all that to say that I think it's interesting that you and Eunice kind of like went different paths, right? Because even though you guys have this, friendship and so forth, Eunice kind of went OSBL, you kind of went iBattle. Is that correct? I mean, like to say, and then like Eunice kind of like eventually like ended up, getting onto URL. I think he's been making a huge like wave on URL. I think everybody at URL feels the same thing that I felt, which is like we want new people, like we want new talent. We don't want the same old thing over. And I don't need to see, with all respect, I don't need to see Charlie Clips, get paid $5,000 to freestyle, and kind of, do not as good as he could do if he had pre-written, right? Like, so there's always just like like, I guess there's a term, nature abhors a vacuum, right? There's a vacuum, there's a void of like new talent, new people coming up. And so I saw you and Eunice both kind of come up through the spaces. You both, I would say, I don't know if it's accurate to say, but it's probably accurate to say that like you and Eunice are probably the two most successful, I think, battle rappers of the last like 5 whatever years to come out of, not just the spaces, but any of those like online Discord, there's Instagram, there are a lot of online circuits. But you also ended up taking different paths to get there. And that part is a little interesting to me, because like that also, it gives me like kind of like an inkling of who you are. Like I know that, like, I remember actually watching a video. It was like you at Martini's. I think it was like at an OSBL event, and New Jersey Twerk was there. And like, I think they were kind of giving you a hard time about like going to iBattle. And you're from Maryland. OSBL is actually a Maryland battle league. So it's actually kind of ironic that like, you would kind of like gravitate more towards this league that is further away, probably. I mean, is that accurate? I mean, it's like it's Staten Island versus like a different part of Maryland. Like you still have to drive over the bridge. It's a drive.
OSBL is a little bit under 2 hours from me, and then Staten's like 3.5, almost 4.
So I guess the question I wanted to get to was like, what motivated that? How did you like? What is it that kept you like? Because I mean, I love it. I respect it personally, and especially because I'm also like, I'm an iBattle person. Like I want you on our team because you are, the strongest member, I think, of the iBattle team. And the fact that, you show so much loyalty, love, and respect to the brand, to the league, that to me speaks volumes. And even when I think there's a lot of people who might not, I think of a lot of people took the exact same path that you took. Most people would probably have jumped off the roller coaster at some point, like before that. I think most people would have been like, all right, whatever, fuck iBattle. Like, I'm starting to get a little bit of like notoriety. I'm going to go like, focus on something different. I don't think you did that. So what is it that motivated you kind of to like, stay, I guess, loyal to iBattle and that whole thing?
Um, well, when I first started getting a little bit of buzz in the spaces, I was actually reached out to by both leagues, and I intended, which I ended up doing doing battles on both leagues. Um, and I was kind of like iBattle was the place I first ever did a live battle at. I never officially there's no like, oh, I'm signing this contract. I'm now officially Team iBattle. I just kind of started battling there and also battling on OSBL. And I started climbing the rankings and around like when I was getting into headband contention, that's when people started asking me like, okay, what is your goal in battle rap? What are you here to do? And I think shout out to my cousins, by the way. OSBL, that's my cousin Kel. Sorry, OSBL
Are you actually
is
related?
more like no. That's what we just say, like battle rap.
Ah, okay, my
But
bad.
it will I battle, but like I battle your brothers, your cousins. But OSBL is it's like a development league. It's like a developmental league, which
Right.
means like it's goal oriented. You don't just go to OSBL and just kind of just rap and say like it's they're preparing you for whatever your goal is, whether that be I want to get a 1SK, I want to go to RBE, I want to do the Crucible, I want to go to URL, I want to get on the King of the Dot, I want to. So it's supposed to be an elevation platform where it's elevating you and it's very goal oriented.
Right.
And when I was coming up in battle rap, I didn't have many battle rap related goals. I literally was only battling live because people was like, "Hey, we like the stuff you're doing here, do it live."
Right.
So at that point, I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. I was thinking, well, I don't want to rush into anything. I don't want to jump into the crucible process and then end up in a URL contract where I'm like, I have to do this, I have to do that. I would rather have like just the freedom to just figure out things. And which was a little bit dangerous because I feel like I had like some like heavy but me and Eunice both came out the space at the same time. So it was like heavy buzz. People were just like, oh, you gotta capitalize on this and just stick it to the moon. I was like, well, I'm kind of just having fun and just doing my own thing. And then when
Right.
I started realizing what I wanted to do, I started making more decisions like, okay, well, I want to be on YouTube most of the time because I think that's where my fan base that likes me the most is. I
Mhm.
want to have the freedom to go on different platforms and different leagues because I think I have the style for it. I could go and battle Capo Bravado in his neighborhood in New Orleans and then turn around and jump on a plane and go battle in the UK against a
Right.
British person and they get
And
the
that's the
same like
other thing
result
that's
and
kind of fire
feedback
is
and
like, I
connection
mean,
with the crowd.
I forgot to mention, like, yeah, you have also battled in Ireland. You battled in London, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you've been able to go international, and you started
Mm.
out, just doing audio battles online on Twitter,
Yeah.
and all of this happened in a very short period of time, right? There's a lot of people,
Yeah.
myself included, who like, have been around for longer, and then still haven't achieved all the things that you've achieved, which is
Mhm.
remarkable considering like the amount of time that you've been here, and both you and Eunice, and the amount of things that you both have accomplished. Do you feel like there's any type of like competition? I mean, I know it's like friendly, but like,
Yeah.
but like just a level of like, oh, okay, trying to outdo each other.
It's definitely a super motivating factor. That's why I think our schedules line up pretty well because we usually have like some really high like levels of like battles that we're preparing for at the same time. So like I'll be like Eunice will be like preparing for a battle, and then I'll show up and I have 3 finished rounds for low supreme. And he
Right.
says, oh yeah, I'm about to go right. I'm about to go right. And then vice versa. He'll be like, yeah, he'll be like, Albert, you want to hear this chess material? No. And I'm just like, all right, here I go. Yeah, let me go rewrite my material. But I can't reveal it because it's not announced yet. But let me rewrite that. But so it's definitely that as well. But also, another thing I noticed, I feel like the battle rap community, like the casual fan, the more like knowledgeable, the more the fan that pays more attention or takes it a little bit more seriously would know all of the different up and comers and be like, okay, yeah, that's Capo Bravado, that's Hansel, that's Dollar Bill, that's all they would know all the individual people. Whereas the more casual fan would be like, okay, this is the new class, and you would have to do something to separate yourself from that. And I realized let's say hypothetically, me and Eunice both just go to OSBL. We both do 2-on-2s. We both climb up through OSBL's ranks. We both do the Crucible, and then we both get signed to URL. And for the most part, even though I think we're stylistically like pretty different, a lot of people kind of were especially at the time, were lumping us into the same like I guess type of battle rapper. So I
Oh,
feel like it would have been harder for me to differentiate myself to the
Right.
the main casual audience with that, then it's like, okay, what's the difference between Eunice and Appa? Whereas if every time we're doing two things differently, he's doing the Crucible, I'm on King of the Dot. You know,
Right.
he's doing this, I'm doing that. Like he's the Midnight Madness OMA Gauntlet winner. I'm the iBattle champion. Like it just separates it. We went to London, I went to Ireland at first. You know? So it's like just the continuously to build our own brands, because we definitely have, like, I think a group brand and a group fandom with Space Invaders, but also just the individual people that could be like, I like Eunice, I'm a Eunice fan, or I like Oppa, I'm an Oppa fan. I think that's very important branding wise as well. So that's definitely something that factored into some of my decisions.
Right. All right. So getting back to real quick your kind of title run in iBattle, they call it the headband. We don't have a belt, we have a headband. And so you were the champion. You won it from Louis. You battled King Jables, who was kind of like a mainstay that a lot of people in iBattle, like looked up to. And I think a lot of people might have had you as the loser of that. Like not the loser, but I mean, like, going into the battle, they predicted you. You were probably the underdog, I think, for that battle.
Yeah, that was in the middle of the so I feel like you mentioned how battle rap kind of changed in the pandemic as well. I think like the post pandemic, that's when iBattle brought in talents like Phoebo, Cash Kid, Los Preem, JR, Knocking the Prophet, Dexter. That's when that class of iBattlers kind of came in, including myself. And at first it was, oh yeah, these young kids are like, they're really good and they're really they're hungry. They want this. They want this new. They seem to want it, but it was kind of untested, I suppose. Like we hadn't really had many chances to interact with the older class, and we started having like battles like JR and Red Flag, and battles like Los and Black Mage. Those were the first like kind of like times like kind of interacting with the newer class. And me versus Louis and me versus Jables were both like two of those where it was like, okay, let's see what these kids actually can do. And when I won against Louis, it was kind of like oh shit, well, let's see what's next. And when I went against Jables, it was like, let's see if it's a fluke or not. I guess it came to like I kind of had to prove it. It's like we can't really like go with this new guy. He just showed up a couple months ago. We can't say he's going to beat Jables. That wouldn't make sense.
That makes sense. I mean, I was there for that battle. That was the same event where I battled King Brook, and so you and Jables battled. I saw that live, and you were incredible. I think one of the most, like, the thing I like about you the most, and it's like kind of your superpower, is that you do know how to do impressions really well. And when you battled Jables, you had like an impression of Jables, and like it was so on point. It was hilarious, and like you're very good at taking that and using that and turning it into either a moment or something that, like, completely disparages your opponent. And and so I know people kind of like, talk, I think, I don't know if it's like really genuine. Obviously people use it as an angle against you in battles because, you were in the spaces and you did like impression battles of other battlers, but you have like, this is a talent that most battle rappers don't have, which is kind of like the ability to do impressions. I am terrible at impressions, which is why you very rarely ever see me do one. But if I could do that and like use it and use it effectively the way that you do it, I absolutely would. But yeah, I mean, like that was an incredible battle. Then after that, you battled Death the Kid, right, for the headband. And I'm trying to think. I think most people kind of, I think a lot of people expected Death to be like a competition for you, but I don't think that you were the underdog at that point. I think at that point, at that point, people knew, like, who you were, how good you were. I think people knew that, like, you were
Clash of the Titans type thing,
right? And it didn't really kind of turn out that way, though. So I guess going on to real quick, this is like, kind of one of the things that we were going to talk about was the battle that you had with Death the Kid. In particular, your third round. So you had this entire round that, in battle rap, you have your first round, your second round, you get your opportunities to go back and rebuttal. But, sometimes in the third round, it really depends on the battler. Everybody has their own style. But you know, you did an entire round kind of centered around his name, which was Death the Kid, and then you kind of like were flipping, you know, this idea of like death and like, you know, I guess your dad had passed away. Not, it was actually pretty close to that battle, which I can only imagine, like, you know, I think would be more emotionally taxing maybe for you.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't that long of a period of time afterwards. But you battled death, and you had this entire kind of round about how you, I like if death was a person, do you know what I would do to him? Like that type of thing. I can't say the word, but you know, like
Yeah.
but that's the whole round was based on this idea of a catharsism, I guess, really just like being able to take, you know, your own struggle, your own pain, what you're experiencing in that moment, and being able to take that and turn that into a work of art, into, you know, this idea of creativity, and take, you had multiple like haymaker bars, like when you look when you ask me if I look death in the eye, I get highly offended. Like these things, like, you know, it was an incredible moment. I'm gonna probably gonna go back and probably even edit this and just kind of put the clip in, but we'll see how that goes, right? But
Right, yeah.
if I'm gonna put in a clip, I'm gonna put it in right here.
Life reminds me of that topic so much, I can't tell if it's a sign to confront it or a sign I'm going insane off it. He was Tim Saunders. I'm Tim Saunders. They put a different type of pain on it. You ever sat at a funeral surrounded by your family crying, holding an obituary that got your own name on it? That shit Please, bro. Talk to your nigga, bro. That shit'll fuck you up. Right. I'm not just taking real life trauma to use it as filler. I'm actually talking directly to you, in fact, nigga. Cause every day since then, all I can think about is if death was a person, you know what I would do to that nigga? This is no moment, bro. You're the best fucking I'm not just taking real life trauma to use it as filler. I'm talking directly to you, in fact, nigga. Cause ever since that day, all I can think about is if death was a person, you know what I would do to that nigga? I lose my mind in an instant. When rigor mortis sets in, the facial expression the person had when they died is cemented. The man who taught me how to be a man, I saw his pupils staring up in mine and realized life wasn't in them. So when you ask if I ever stared death in the eyes, I get highly
All right. So can you tell me like what? All right. First off, was there a moment where you decided like this is how I'm going to approach the battle? Was there like what did you kind of hope to get out of that? What was your thought process like going into that battle, or in particular about that verse and how you wanted to approach it?
Well, for me, it was kind of just a thing that was kind of like lingering just for me because when my father passed away, I didn't really mourn at all. Like I kind of was like, because my father's name is also Timothy, and I'm the youngest out of all my siblings. So in my mind, I was like, if I'm the baby, so I'm like, if I put on like a straight face and I'm good, I'll help everybody else be okay. And that's what my dad would have wanted, is what I'm thinking. So I kind of just like, I didn't really express anything. I kind of just kept it like moving like nothing happened, which is surprising to everyone else. I was like, wow, Tim's taking it so well. Really, I was taking it horribly, but I was like really good at masking it. And
Right.
So, but it was always just bothering me. It was constantly lingering, and like just little things would trigger, like even like the word death. Every time I would think about it, I would just like get upset. But so when it was announced that it would be Los versus Death for the #1 contenders match, I just already like that was. I'm like, well, if Death the Kid advances in this matchup, that's kind of like an idea of something I could work with.
Right.
But every time I sat down to write the round, I just kind of didn't want to do it. Like it was emotionally taxing to write it, so I'd always put it off. So I kept like pushing it off, and I write early. Everyone that like knows my prep process. I write pretty early. Like I usually like 2 weeks out. I usually got all 3 like memorized. So when it was, I wrote when it was announced me versus Death. I wrote my first round. I wrote my second round. Kept procrastinating on the third round. I think I ended up finishing that third round like 6 days before the battle.
Right.
Like that's when I actually sat down. I just sat down and wrote it all in one go. because I was thinking like, okay, I just want to get it over with as far as just writing it. I don't want to sit down and like think and revise and do all that. So I literally just like, that's why I love the third, because it's just the uncut. Like I always say, I didn't write that round, it wrote itself. I pretty much just like put everything I was feeling into rhyme form. And I was like, I woke up, I just hope people like it. That's all I was thinking at the time. I was like, I hope this goes like well, that people enjoy it. And then at a certain point I go, well, it's not for people necessarily to enjoy. If they enjoy it, that's great, but this is more of a therapeutic thing for me. So
Right.
That's why the feedback I got on the round was just so like mind blowing to me, just because I was, okay, I could, when I didn't want to write the round, and two, when I did write the round, I was thinking, well, this might not go over as well as the other two. So we'll see. And that ended up being the round that everyone remembers, not only from the battle, but just from me in general. So you just goes to show you never really know until you try. So,
do you feel like there was any like inspiration from other battlers from that? Like my first thought for that type of round, the biggest battle that happened that I was aware of was Daylight versus Oops. And that was the round where everybody was, you know, they both had a third round kind of like that. Not exactly like that, but like it's just to be like vulnerable, to be, you know, to take, you know, your emotion, your personal, you know, things you might be going through and take it and turn it into, you know, lyricism and expression, but also the weird thing that we do in battle rap, which is like to insult your opponent all at the same time.
yeah.
And so was there any like motivation or just like anybody that you know you would have like kind of cited for some level of inspiration for that?
And it's so crazy too. The like one of the rounds I was thinking about was 'cause I'm trying to remember if it had dropped at this point or not, because I don't remember if I had actually got to see this round before I wrote mine, or whether it was just talked about and I was like, I saw clips or whatever of it. But Klutz's third round for JC was around a similar time. And the reason I say it's so crazy because that round was before my round. And so it was a little bit of inspiration from that. And then Klutz was inspired by that and had a bar referencing my round versus Def the Kid versus Cortez, which was like kind of a flip of it because his name is Cortez. Like his real name is Cortez. Klutz's real name is Cortez. And it was like it was like a flip of my name bar.
Right.
And it's just, that's why I think it's dope that it can become so like the vulnerability can become contagious and people can all like be more, because then we get rounds like we get homeschooled rounds for SoulCon, which is a beautiful round. We get round. I really liked I like Los Supreme's third for me. I like we can continue getting people to show, yeah, it is battle rap, but it's still art at the end of the day, and you can do whatever you want really in these raps. You can paint any picture you want. You don't even necessarily even have to be insulting your opponent, as you can make it relate to your opponent and is even inspired. Sometimes I'll go back and that'll be my inspiration for later rounds. Like I'll take a different spin on it. Like my third for A Ward, which was about my mom got in a car accident before I was even born or even thought of being born, and survived. So it's like that was my angle for him, saying like, well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from with the religious stuff, because I've seen miracles happen. I've witnessed miracles. I am a miracle. It's just like little things like that. It makes you think, what else can I say besides I'm willing to shoot you with a firearm and I don't like your raps? Because there's so much more you can say. There's just so much more you can
Ladder
say.
scream.
Yeah. Ladder scream. Shout out Cash King.
But
yeah, there's just so much you can do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely believe what you said in terms of like vulnerability being contagious, right? Like I've seen it so many times. Even like this was even before like, you know, I ever battled on iBattle, before like, you know, this was back in like 14, 15. But like I was doing some battles. I battled a guy named Richard Cranium, and he had like a round for me, and he just like kind of like, his round was like, he kind of like talked about his own thing, but then he also just kind of like pointed out to me, like, you know, I don't like acknowledge like certain things. Like back then I had longer hair, and like, so he had a whole like bar about how like, you know, he was a former, you know, meth addict, some other stuff. So he like was missing some teeth. So he had a bar that was like, you know, I show my scars every time I smile. You just cover yours with your hair. Right. And he was just like showing like, just like, taking it as a personal, and I knew like what he was saying. I understood like on a human level like what it was that he was communicating. It's just like me not being maybe as authentic as I could be, and then that made me feel like, okay, like I immediately like I was like, damn, I wish I wrote a whole different round for that
Yeah.
battle than I actually did. And so then I went out and did a different battle, and that's when I like rapped that round, which didn't go out as well as I would have liked it to. But and then but it is what it is. But I mean, so on the topic of, I guess, vulnerability and lyricism in general, I know you also kind of include this in your music as well. I think you have you have a song, Mr. Saunders, I think, which is about your dad, which I think it was like kind of like maybe some of it was like from his perspective of like him talking to you, and so I thought that was really dope. And then like and am I wrong, or is your last song like dedicated to your mom, or, not the bonus track, but
Mickey, yeah.
So I mean, like, what was maybe like the inspiration between those two songs? What kind of like how do you feel going like writing, recording, going through all of that?
So the inspiration for both of those songs actually comes from a song I made in 2019. And this is part, it goes into like the whole like the grieving thing, how I just kind of moved quickly. My father passed on March 18th in 2019, and literally by the end of March, I want to say like it was March 30th or 31st, I had a song called Tim Saunders that was on all major streaming services, and it was dedicated to him. And
Right.
that was the first time I ever like really talked about something very, very serious in my music. Up to that point, I was like 20 years old, so that's the first time I made a serious song. And people were always commending me, like, that's crazy that you were able, one, to make the song so quickly, and two, to put your thoughts and the feelings and everything like that. And in my head, I'm thinking like, yeah, but I haven't even started. Like to get my feelings out. Really, this is just a song as like a tribute. So Mr. Saunders is a more like fleshed out concept of a song, and it's more with more time removed from like more time to grieve, more time to think, more time to process things. Right. So the way I wrote it, my grandfather passed away when my dad was only 6 years old. So I've never met my grandfather. And I didn't have, still don't have any kids when my father had passed. So my kids would never obviously get to meet my father. But I was thinking about how all the things that he's taught me, all the lessons that he's taught me will affect them because I'll be passing them down.
Right.
And I realized, well, like thinking back, I might have never met my grandfather, but I'm sure I was influenced by the lessons that he taught my father as well. And that became the concept of the song, where the first verse is from my grandfather's perspective talking to my father, and then the second verse is from my father talking to me, and the third verse is me talking to my future child. And the vocal, the audio effect too is on purpose, where the first verse is hard to hear, because from my perspective, it'd be hard to get the message.
I thought I was just deaf.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. The mixing.
That track was not made for me.
Yeah. The mixing was very intentional. Where the first one, it cuts out as like the radio frequency sounds and everything. And then the second verse is a lot more clear because it's stuff that I was around to hear, but some of it is still like a little staticky because he's no longer here. So I can't, like, I'd have to be, as time goes on, it becomes more of a distant memory. Right. And then my verse is just completely clear because it's my words. So that's the story behind that one. And then
that's a fire concept though. Like even like the engineering of it, like the mixing and shit. Like
that was so fun to do. And then
do you mix and do you like, how do you record? Do you go somewhere, or do you record at home, or do you mix?
I record myself at home. I record myself and then I mix and master and freak out about how it sounds for like a month, and I'm like, okay, well, I put the song out. But the song Mickey, the concept was dedicating a song to my mom, because one of the things I always regretted about the Tim Saunders song, originally everyone loved it and said how it was a good tribute to my dad, is that he never got to hear it, or some of the things that I said in the song, I never got to actually say to him, to like tell him how much I actually appreciated him. And obviously like he knew because it was shown, but I just didn't, it just felt good to say it. So the song Mickey was dedicated to my mom, because I was like, why do you have to wait until somebody passes away to dedicate something to them, or to give them their flowers, or to tell them how much you appreciate them, when you can literally talk to them while they're here?
Right.
So that's why I dedicated the song to my mom. And her nickname was Mickey because her name is Michelle, but her nickname is Mickey because as a kid she was obsessed with Disney. So they just nicknamed her Mickey.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from. But
Yeah, that's fire. I think I heard in a podcast that you did that you started playing saxophone as a kid.
yeah.
Do you still play that? How far did
Oh,
you get in that?
yeah, I would probably be terrible if I picked one up now.
No, I
I played in fourth grade, and then I played alto for a couple of years, and then in like seventh grade I switched to baritone saxophone, which is the big bass one, and then
right.
I played that from like till like sophomore year of high school. It was the marching band season that did it, and carrying that and marching in the hot song. I couldn't do it, but it was fun
But
though. It was super fun.
I mean, like, I don't know. Have you ever thought about like picking it back up? I mean, I don't know. Just like it's still.
I've definitely considered it a bunch of times too, and I still have my alto somewhere. I just have to, get some reeds, and
Yeah,
like, I still got my alto, and I got my beginner's book too, so I can start from scratch and start over with I got my fourth grade beginner's music book. So what other songs in it? I can just relearn it.
No, I played saxophone for like 1 year in like third grade and I stopped. I hated the reed. Like it's just like the
But yeah,
fucking it's like
it's tripping.
I don't like wood. It's like the texture of it. Like
Yeah,
you ever touch like the bottom of a terracotta pot or something, or I don't know, just like some
yeah,
textures that just
yeah.
like chalk on the net on yeah, nails on the
Mhm.
chalkboard type shit. There's not a lot of like saxophones in rap music, but I feel like you can you can make
Yeah.
it a thing.
When
Maybe
there are, they're
The
pretty
Kenny G of
thrift shop.
rap.
Yeah, the thrift shop by Macklemore is the last one that comes to mind. Oh man.
But I mean, yeah. Moving on though. All right. So let me kind of center in and kind of like drill down a little bit more, I guess, into kind of like maybe your childhood upbringing and all that. I think
Mhm.
you said at one point. So my understanding is your dad was a carpenter,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
then was he also? You mentioned I don't know if this was true or if it was just like
Yeah.
for a bar. But you had mentioned I think in your battle with Los Preem that he was like into karate or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was
That was
that
one of
true?
the bars. That was one of the bars versus Death, which kind of made the whole battle kind of weirdly
Oh, it
symbolic.
was a death. My bad. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the battle, I have I think I don't have the headband on the beginning of the battle. I put it on in the second round, and
I
then I
didn't
take
even
it off.
notice that. It's subtle
Yeah,
shit like that. It's
yeah.
genius,
Because I
but
think I
like
started the battle
if I
with
don't
yeah.
if I don't catch it,
Yeah, I
like
started the battle with no headband on at all. And then the second round, while he's rapping, I put the headband on, and I rap the second round with the headband on. Where I'm doing the instructions, kind of go
yeah,
to
the
the instructions, I'm breaking
Danielson
down.
type shit.
Yeah. And then I had the Danielson bar in the beginning of the third. But yeah, he's actually it's so crazy. He told me this story so many times as a kid, and as a like those stories you'll get told over and over again as a kid, and you just don't want to hear them anymore because you've already heard the story 1,000 times. You know how it goes. It's
I'm not
so
gonna.
funny that now like I have the story ingrained in my head. There was a mixed martial artist from Japan. His name was Tatsu Shimabuku,
Uh,
and he took his favorite parts of two karates that he was proficient in, which was Goju and Shoinryu, and he combined them into Ishinryu. And Ishinryu karate was his new like technique of karate, and he had a class. One of the people that learned directly from him was a man from New Jersey named Gary Alexander.
mhm.
And Gary Alexander taught a whole class, which included a man from the Eastern Shore of Maryland named Leroy Smolin. And Leroy Smolin was my dad's karate instructor. So he like it was like so he was always just huge into Ishinryu karate. And I think he's a ninth or 10th degree black belt in Ishinryu karate. I don't remember which degree. I think it was 10th. But he
I
used to
don't know
always be
anything
like,
about
yeah,
what that means, but it sounds impressive.
yeah. It's just a high. You just go.
You could have been like,
He
he's
was
a
really good at karate.
123rd degree black belt. I would have been like,
Yeah, yeah.
word.
I don't even know how many degrees you can go
I
up.
didn't know there
just
were
know
10. I thought there were like
Yeah,
three stripes and shit.
yeah,
I
yeah,
went to
yeah, yeah.
karate, but like, yeah, I didn't get the
Yeah,
black belt.
yeah, yeah. I don't. It's he was very much karate. I guess he was very much, a lot of karate. But yeah, so that was definitely something I had to call upon for the bar. But yeah, he's a carpenter as well. That's why he was so popular around town because he was a carpenter and everybody needed like shit fixed. And then also in the '80s, the karate was like huge because of all the movies and everything. So he was an instructor, so everyone was trying to learn this shit. So that made him
Right.
very popular around town.
And so you grew up in Cambridge, right?
Yeah, very small town. Yeah.
And I did not know this, but it was I only knew this because of one of your songs. I think mentioned it. I guess
Mhm.
was it Harriet Tubman was from like the same? Was it like the same
Yeah.
county or where?
Yeah, she's from Dorchester County. I guess before, I don't know if when Harriet Tubman was born, it was the cities yet. I don't know if it was the city of Cambridge very much yet, but it was where Cambridge is today.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, what was it like growing up in Cambridge then? I mean, how did you? I don't know. I've never even been on like the Eastern Shore. Like, I'm
Sure.
originally from Florida, and then I moved to
Yeah.
Maryland. I met my wife here. Then we moved to Alabama for like 5 years. Then I moved back to
Mhm.
Maryland. But I've always been on this side of things, maybe a little closer to Baltimore.
Yeah.
But
It's an interesting tiny demographic because like the population we're all the way up to 13,000
mm.
population now, but like, all the way up, which is why it's so like surreal doing like the battle rap stuff because like everyone in Cambridge knows everybody. So I
Right.
literally like I'll walk around like I literally just today
Do
went
people
to
in
go get
Cambridge
lunch.
know about you as a battle rapper? Or do they know about you
Yes.
as a musician and everything?
They know me more as a battle rapper than a musician because as a musician it was like, oh, that's Tim, that's the guy who makes music. Yeah, it's actually pretty good, but no one really like cared that much. And then
Mm.
when the battle rap stuff, it comes with travel. So they see me in London, they see me in Ireland, they're just like, oh wow, Tim's from Cambridge doing that. So
Uh,
I was literally getting lunch right before this, and someone stopped me like that hadn't seen me in a while, was asking me about battles and stuff like because this is like a small town.
right.
So
Right.
that's why it's so real. When I go anywhere else, I can just blend in. No one even knows or gives a fuck who I am. But every time I'm in Cambridge, it's like, oh, it's Tim, it's Oppa. So that's kind of
Right.
cool. But growing up, it's such an interesting demographic for such a small place because it's kind of diverse. A lot of Cambridge, I guess, would be like considered the hood. And an interesting thing I think too also is Cambridge is actually predominantly black, like 52% of the population is.
Right.
And
I think a lot of Maryland
yeah,
is. I mean, it.
yeah.
I don't know what the actual demographics are overall, but like, and
Mhm.
then also like where I am right now, I just moved to this area and it's very like white rednecky and fucking it's Trump Town where I'm at.
Yeah.
There's one of my neighbors. I don't even. I'll keep the politics out of this. All right, we'll move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, but I was saying like, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I was saying like it's so diverse because like it's like half the hood and half the country. So like the other half of Cambridge, like the outskirts of Cambridge, would be like the country, and
Right.
that's like the town you referred to, like Johnstown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's just the city where there's like okay, there's all the restaurants and the grocery stores and everything in between that. You drive one way, and that's the hood. You drive the other way, you're down over yonder,
Yeah.
and that's all. It's like Dorchester County. So it's always been like interesting too. Like it's kind of like a little bit of a melding pot. It's always been like a little like I guess sometimes tension, like there is like, you know, the two different demographics and like racial things going on and stuff like that. But growing up, it was just kind of just diverse and getting to meet different people and seeing different people's perspective and just having a diverse friend group of people. It was mostly how I would describe it. And then also Eastern Shore, Maryland. So, you know, like hunting, like yeah, there are people like if you weren't a hunter, you were friends with like a butcher or something. You can get some deer or
Right.
some venison, so, or
There's
you
like
like
the
crab
barter
fishing and get some
system,
crabs.
which
Yeah,
that's the weird thing is that like the barter system, even though like people are like, oh yeah, money's more efficient, blah blah blah, but like the barter system really allows for people to be a community and
yeah,
allows for people to really socialize with each other. And like, good God, do we need
Timo.
people to be able to socialize with each other in 2025?
Very
Because
bad.
like all of the problems that we have come from the fact that people don't really communicate very well with each other. They don't really, I mean, they just in general don't really try to just, let's talk about shit that we disagree on and like find a way to, like agree with the fact that we disagree on these things. There's always like a line where, yeah, there are things that are too far and like, you can't reason with this, right? Like, I'm not going to agree with, somebody that's like, hey, we should, I don't even want to get into an example because it'll turn
Yeah,
political. So,
yeah, sometimes, yeah,
but yeah, so I just feel like I'm also thinking about like my own personal, like life because we just moved and we just bought a house and so I'm like I never really like I didn't grow up with a dad. He was and I guess I'll ask you this question then. So like when you were growing up, was your dad like really was he like insistent on you learning how to do shit like, how to like learn how to do carpentry type shit? Was he teaching you any of that, or was he kind of just like, that's my thing, and
Yeah, he
you
was
know,
kind of the opposite. He
right.
would be like he'd be like, you do not, he'd be like, pay attention in school, get a degree, get a comfy job like your mom. You don't want to be like me. I'm out here working in the heat. In the winter, I'm outside under any weather conditions. I'm lifting all this heavy shit. I'm drilling nails. I'm drilling a nail in my hand. I'm hammering, hit myself in the hand with a hammer. He's like, yeah. He used to always be like, no, don't do this. But yeah, he was definitely he was more like, as far as like teaching me how to do stuff, he wouldn't teach me how to do stuff. But he was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to do this shit. As far
No,
as
no,
like
no.
the
That's
garbage.
No, I agree with you 100%. And that's what I
Yeah.
was going to say is that like you don't want to, I mean, like, and I'm not trying to belittle like, blue collar labor,
Yeah.
or anything like that. It comes down to economics and the way that like, unfortunately, like I wish everybody were paid, reasonably good wages, but
Mhm.
economically speaking, like blue collar like jobs are just, they tend to pay less money than like if you're like a software engineer or something like that,
Yeah.
and they also tend to be harder, honestly. Like not, in terms of
Yeah.
like
As
you
far as like
said, like being
physically
out in the
strenuous.
elements
Yeah.
and you're constantly doing labor and like, you could injure yourself, all these things, but you really want to like, in today's world, you want to have like a cush, like, white collar job where you're making a good amount of money, but you want to know how to do the blue collar things, right? You want both of
Yeah.
those. That's the way to be
For
like
sure.
fully well-rounded and a perfect model of like a human like that is like that everybody like loves and adores, I think.
Yeah, that's why I think I got a good little balance, because while my dad was a carpenter, and well, he was a carpenter. Carpenter is kind of like limited. He said he could pretty much do anything except for HVAC.
Right,
So like he could like plumbing, electrical work, acquiring all that stuff. And then my mom was a pediatric nurse.
right,
So like she takes care of like just his children, and
right,
she does like meds and like blood work and all that stuff. And most of her job is like paperwork. So you
right,
usually got to see like both sides, like both different, like two different types of paths, two different types of job and stuff.
right. um yeah, I mean, I just I personally didn't grow up with like anybody who taught me how to do like certain things, and so like I'm like, man, I'm like barely figuring out how to work a power drill, like
Yeah.
how do I make this impact driver like how
And,
do I
and
get
my,
the bit inside the
and
shit?
my problem was I had a carpenter teaching me, and I was half listening because I wanted to get back on my game. I wanted to play SmackDown.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was like, yeah, yeah. So I don't remember it. Like I remember, I vaguely remember. So I'm just thinking, like, damn, I should have listened. What is he talking about? What is he?
Yeah,
But
but I mean, so I guess like talking about like maybe your interest as you were growing up and stuff. Like I think somewhere you said your like main two interests were basketball and wrestling, right? As a
yeah.
kid. So I mean, like, how did you like start getting into those things and like I guess what are your like kind of fonder memories around those, or especially
Um.
just in general? Maybe not even that, but like your in
Yeah.
general fonder memories as a kid, like things that you enjoyed like doing and stuff.
Well, it kind of went hand in hand because so with basketball, I don't remember exactly when it was. My earliest basketball memory is the 2004 finals with the Pistons and the Lakers, because
Right.
I remember I just vaguely remember. I think I was 6 during that finals. I remember like the because I used to read. This is a crazy thing. I used to read like the newspaper when I was like a kid, because like I was that's how I was, because I was like I would just love to. Once I learned how to read, I just wanted to read everything. So that's kind of what helped me like progress in school, because I just was like always like reading everything. So my
Right.
parents used to always brag like, "Hey, he's reading the newspaper." Really, I would mostly just read the sports section, though. But I would just read. And
I know you're younger than me. Are you still from the era where they had like those big containers and you just like kind of like open it up and they have a stack of newspapers? I think you
yeah,
just put in like one quarter and they just kind of like take it on faith that you're only going to take one and they close it again.
yeah. Yeah, he's not gonna steal the newspapers. Hopefully, yeah. My dad used to always have the newspaper, so I used to always read. And I just remember, like the general gist I was getting is that the Pistons shouldn't beat the Lakers. Like they're like the Lakers, where they had Kobe, they had Shaq, they had everybody. So I
Right.
was like, oh, okay, well they're just gonna lose. And then when I saw the Pistons win, I was just like, whoa, like because I was new to sports. So I was like, wait, the team that everyone thinks is gonna win could lose. That's cool. So that's why well, people could be wrong. That's cool. So I just like that's how I got into basketball, and I became a fan of basketball. And with
What's your
wrestling,
team? Washington.
my team is the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
The Spurs was my team. When I was younger as a kid, I just was a big fan of the whole league, so I kind of bounced around. I didn't really have a definitive team. And then when LeBron went to Miami, I was just angry. I was like, "That's lame." I was that's lame. So when they kept going to the finals with the Spurs, I became a Spurs fan just from rooting from them so much in those finals.
Yeah,
and seeing them like win through my time there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's not exactly how I became an Eagles fan, but it's kind of how I became an Eagles fan because I grew up in Tampa, and like I did the same thing where I was just like I hated the fact that everybody in Tampa was kind of like a fair weather fan. Nobody. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's like this on like the eastern side of Maryland, but I know like if I'm around Baltimore, anywhere in Baltimore County, right? And this is one of the things that I really liked about Baltimore when I first moved around here. Is that everywhere I go, I see Ravens and Orioles. Like, if I'm driving behind somebody, if I go to a bar, everywhere it's decked out. If back in Florida, the only time it ever looked like that around Tampa was when the teams were doing well. So if the Devil Rays or whatever, they were the Devil Rays way back. But like if the Rays were, going to like the World Series or whatever, then everybody like showed up and they were like, oh yeah, I've always loved the Rays, and like the same thing with the Bucks. And like, so I was like, all right, man, there was a time period where every single year the Bucks would be playing against the Eagles in the playoffs, and then I just like I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna be an Eagle fan.
You became an
that
Eagles fan
stuck
from
with
that.
me.
Yeah.
I've never lived in
It feel
Philadelphia.
like that. The disdain for the other team happens, and it's funny that you say that because in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, it's kind of the same. Like there's Ravens fans everywhere. There you get a good mix here. I guess you get some Steelers fans. I think who just grew a disdain for the Ravens fans.
Yeah,
and then you got some Washington, but we're technically like people don't realize this. We're closer to Washington and Landover and all that than we are to Baltimore. So I was surprised that there's more Ravens fans here. But I guess it's like a cultural thing. It's Maryland, I guess.
Right.
So, whereas more people that associate themselves with DC or the DC area would be a Washington fan. But I was gonna say as far as with wrestling, basically I was flipping through channels, and the worst thing that could possibly happen for a young kid who is into basketball and hip hop, the flicking through channels could happen. I saw John Cena for a half a second, and I was like, "Wait, who's that guy?" And he's coming down to the ring with his basketball jersey on, and he's rapping. It's like that. I was like, "Wait, what's this? Is cool. What's this?" And that's how I started. Literally, I just happened to see John Cena, and I was like, "Well, this guy's cool. I want to see what's going on with him." And then I find out, oh, okay, he's gonna be on this channel every week at this time. All right, I'll just keep tuning in and see what happens. And then at a certain point, I was kind of like, for a long time, I was pretty much like in every summer, my outfits would just be John Cena. Like I would have like some shorts, like some jean shorts, and basketball jersey. Yeah, some jorts and a basketball jersey. There's probably endless pictures of me wearing that from like age like 6 to like 10. Just jorts and a jersey.
No, oh man, if you saw some of the pictures I had as a kid, like I was all decked out in wrestling gear, and like it was I just did not look cool. I also had jorts, but they were a little bit more like, I don't know. Yeah. They weren't in fashion, but they definitely weren't in fashion when I wore them. But like they were more in fashion among my peers, I think, around that time. Yeah. Especially like when I was like in elementary school or something, like Jinko jeans and stuff were like popular, and like so it wasn't unheard of to have jorts. But like I got to be honest, man. Like I was never like a big John Cena fan. I like him now. Oh, yeah. I like him now because I respect him. But I still don't really like his character. Like I never really liked him that much.
Phases with him. I went through phases with him. Like when I was a kid, I went through phases. Like when I was a kid, I was John Cena, and then as I kind of got older, I go, this guy kind of sucks. I don't like him. I like that. I don't like him anymore. And then as I got older, I go, he's still like kind of wrestling at a high level, and he's went through these different character changes. Like I respect it. Like when I was like 17, 18, that was like around when he was doing the United States Champion Challenge and fighting Kevin Owens and stuff, and like having matches with AJ Styles, and I was like, okay, I gotta give him his credit here. But I was gonna tie back to Mr. Saunders thing with the wrestling. It's always funny because my dad kind of like, he didn't hate wrestling, but he didn't like it. He just thought it was kind of dumb because he was a big mixed martial arts guy, so he was never into it. But my grandfather, his father, loved wrestling. So he would watch it a bit to see how much it's changed from when his dad used to watch it, just to see that. But like, for the most part, he didn't give a damn about wrestling. So in the Mr. Saunders song, when the little radio bits cut in, the audio during my grandfather's verse is actually from a Buddy Rogers match from like the 60s.
Okay.
That's the type of wrestling he'd be watching. And then that was a funny callback. But yeah.
Yeah. Did your dad ever try to get you into like MMA and stuff like that? Or I know it wasn't as popular back then. So
yeah, he never really tried to get me into it, but he was definitely an avid UFC guy, and that's what got me to watch UFC a little bit. So sometimes we would have crossover, like when Brock Lesnar joined the UFC, that was something we could talk about. And insane when Ronda Rousey had joined WWE, he would tune in just to see what Ronda was doing. That's funny enough.
I was gonna say, speaking of like the WWE stuff, right? So you mentioned earlier that you do a show. It's WWE 2K, which for anybody who doesn't know is like the video game version. I haven't played 2025 yet.
Yeah.
Should I get it? I should probably get it. I've seen clips of it. I've seen clips of it where like somebody's on like the top of.
Played?
What's that?
What's the last WWE game you played, if you remember?
Oh no, I played I played 2K24. So I actually like 2K24. I like the GM mode personally. I like the whole they really did make it into like a board game and shit. I just like part of it is money, and especially like NBA 2K like really like gets on my nerves because like they just want you to buy the same shit every single year, and then I just get tired of
25 is like there's enough differences between it and 24. That's why I was just asking, because like the later the game was, the earlier the game you played was, the more impressed you would be with 2K25. Because like a lot of people that haven't played since like it was SmackDown versus Raw, or since I first joined 2K like 15 and 16, I'd be like, nah, definitely like this is a must grab. But it's a good yearly update from 24. It's not like a 2K or a Madden where it's the same game with just different people.
Right. So okay, like how did you get into like doing the WWE 2K show that you're doing? I know you like basically do it on Discord. Like what is it?
Yeah.
How did you get started? Yeah. I know you kind of do it with a group of people. So can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So shout out to the bonus track on Calvin 3, which is features a lot of the TBG brother. That's my guys.
You got like 20 features on that track too.
Yeah. And the funny part is not even everybody is even on the song. Like, cause like JR and Swag are part of the group, Kai, but they're not on the song as well. But we have a server, TBG, where we do different things. It's kind of like TBG was kind of like, it was like a spinoff of EFM, which was originally where the Twitter space battles and stuff were going on. And
right.
We sometimes we come up with just different cool things to do. And at one point we were just playing GM mode. Like this could be like funner. Like we could like, and I was like, we could do like a show in universe mode. Like we could just draft people like regularly in here, and we could just do a show in universe mode. And then that just kept spiraling out of control from like, and we could draft creative wrestlers too, and like bring like people from other companies and like AEW wrestlers in. Right. And then that spun off to like, and we could like stream it, and then we're like, and we could do segments too. Like we could like have like storylines and segments, and then he was like, and we can have graphics for it. And now we have, I guess it's like its own like little universe with like a little audience for it. Where it's like things will happen like I run mine every Tuesday. And Kai is the general manager of SmackDown. He runs every like Thursday. And now we've drafted staffs now too. So now we got like graphics guy, we got like different, and there's joint pay-per-views and then the solo pay-per-views, and we just kind of we have our friends like rate the matches, rate the segments, and that's like a competition who can get the higher ratings. So it's fun, and it's more subjective because it's not like we're trying to appease video games AI, like how they count up the points. We're actually trying to put on something like entertaining that a person can pick. Oh, I like this 5 stars, or I like this one.
Right.
So that's a little different. That's very fun.
Have you done that on Twitch, or have you thought about that? Like, I feel like that's the thing. You know, there's a whole like demographic of people who just watch people play video games. So
yeah, that's the funny thing is we stream on Twitch to the Discord so we can see the stream at the same time. And there's people that watch in the Discord, but then there's also people that just watch on the Twitch without any context. So like if you're in the Discord, you can hear us playing the theme songs because the songs don't play on Twitch because of copyright. So you can hear us playing the theme songs. You can hear us commentating. Like we're commentating the matchups. Like which is funny. I don't know if people remember my second round for Dexter, where I do the wrestling thing. I was actually doing my voice that I do in TBG's. My commentator's name is Saunders. That's what commentated.
Right.
And Saunders is like based off of like Jim Ross, good old JR. So we're here tonight. We got a good old matchup going on. we got John Cena versus Randy Orton, and that'd be like the voice I do. So, but some people just watch us play it on Twitch. Like they'll just watch the match unfold on Twitch and just watch it. I'll be like, why are there 4 viewers like on Twitch that can't hear us or know what's going on? They just watching the. Like, fair enough, fine.
Right.
I guess how many people watch, but it's mostly a fun thing. But we record them too, so like we can make clips of them, and we've been trying to figure out the best way to get like traction for more people that wanted to watch, because it's really there's nothing that really replaces being in the server and watching it live as it happens. But we're like coming up with new ways that we can record this and put it out in small parts in YouTube. We can do this and do that with it. So we've been coming up with ideas, but it's mostly like a fun, creative outlet.
Right. Is that a thing that like if people wanted to join in and just like watch it, is that a thing that like people can? Is there like a link people can go to, or
yeah? We
I know
share
you mentioned it was
link.
on Twitch, and then but yeah. I don't know if the Discord's open to everybody.
Yeah, the Discord's open to everybody. We share the link a lot too, and it's so funny because we had to like it's because it's a big server of people, because it was originally like the AFM server, so it's like probably like hundreds of people in the server, and there's a lot of people that like they know about it because they're in the server, even though they haven't even watched an episode of it. They just know it. They just keep up with it in the chat with the updates and the graphics and stuff.
Right.
But it's so funny. We had to make it so whenever anyone that doesn't have the permissions like to speak, like we have to make sure they're muted when they enter the chat, because when we used to do it at first, random people would pop into the chat and they'd be like, "Hey y'all, what's going on? What y'all do?" Like in the middle of the show.
Right.
Hey, what's good, y'all? What y'all playing 2K? And they'd be like, "Oh shit, we got to re-record." Because we recorded the show, so we had to make it so people. But yeah, anyone can join. It's so fun when people like new people join too, because we're still going. But we'll see the new people. We even acknowledge them. Like, yeah, we got a packed crowd here tonight. We got CJA. I don't know, here in the crowd today.
Right.
We got like if you pull up, we got battle rapper Purely Deaf in the audience. Yeah, so but it's open to everyone.
All right, cool. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to address that like maybe hasn't come up, or things that are on your mind? Did you have any expectation coming into this? Like, okay, like I was gonna talk about this or that, or Purely Deaf is probably gonna ask me this or that.
Yeah, I didn't really think too much about it, because when I was watching like the episode, like I was watching like the Lex episode and the Gas Buff and the Archduke episode, they seemed like just pretty normal, like flowing conversations. So I was just making sure I had free time was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But like I got East West on King of the Dot on the beat battle. This would be fun.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. So how did that get done? Like this is kind of like, it's weird because like battle rap has gone through this weird evolution of like, it started out freestyles on beat, people would rap on beat, and then it like evolved into like, okay, well, we're not going to rap on beat and we're also going to just like pre-write all of our material. And now interestingly enough, King of the Dot is putting out a card where all the battles are on beat. You're going to be on that. Eddie I know I should know this. There's somebody else on iBattle who's on that card.
Easy.
Who?
Easy.
Okay, real easy, yeah. Yeah, and but yeah, like, so it's interesting to me that like we've gone, and it's not like the first time that's happened. There's been other like leagues that have done like on beat battles and stuff. They've always been around, but I think it's interesting that King of the Dot is choosing to do it.
Yeah, that's been the fun part, is explaining to people that don't watch battle rap. I'm like, yeah, I have an on beat battle, and they're just like, what do you mean? Like people that don't watch my battles will be like, what do you mean?
You don't even have to tell them; they'll just, you know.
Yeah. They're like, as opposed to what? And I'm like, well, our normal battles don't have a beat, and then that's when they all have the same reaction. They're like, wait, so you just go up there and just rap? That's terrifying. You just rap in silence, and I'm just when you word it like that, it sounds crazy.
I don't know. Have you ever, because you might not have this problem because you're just so fucking good, but like, have you ever been in a moment where you're just like rapping and like nobody's reacting and it just like, it feels fucking weird. Like, because, you know, like you said, you're not on a beat, you know, it's just like you're in front of a crowd and it feels like you're, you know, almost doing like spoken word poetry maybe or something. And people are just going to be like, just start clapping.
When it's dead silent, it's a little bit. I usually write in a way where I can continue, like, and it doesn't sound like weird if there's no. Like, I don't have many emphasis points where there's a stop needed, and when I
Right.
do, it's something that I'm like, okay, if this bar doesn't land, I'm just gonna go and grab my belongings, and then I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna leave.
So you haven't run into that problem yet.
Yeah, like if this bar doesn't land, I'm good. If I say I was looking for a quarter, I picked a nickel up and got mad, and then Rum Nitty and I Battles crowd just looks at me in silence, I'm just gonna go with time. That's it. I'm lost.
All right, I'll try again in the second round.
Yeah, round two. But yeah, it's definitely. I never really thought about it like that. The only time I've had something maybe similar, I think like versus Tariq, the crowd was a little like sluggish. Like the crowd was a little tired. And then also,
I don't know. I
there's a
personally didn't
moment.
feel that because, like, I don't know. That was such a good. I only saw it like on video. I was not in the building for it. So
Yeah.
to me, that battle was
You know,
incredible.
camera looks
Not-
on camera it translates really well.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible from you. I thought it was incredible from Tariq. Honestly, like if I were to like look at all of your battles like from beginning to end, probably one of my favorite of your battles because like it was just, you know, a great story. And also there's a lot of context I think that like, you know, maybe people wouldn't necessarily get if they weren't, you know, somewhat embedded in the culture. Like you don't necessarily know about like what happened with Big Hunnit and all that. And like I don't know all the details myself, but like, you know, either way, I don't know if that's a thing to even probably not even worth talking about, but like either way, like if you're around the culture, you kind of like know what's going on. So you hear about like, you know, like you had a round where you're kind of talking about that and how like it's bigger than battle rap and, you know, it was like super cool to me. But then I also acknowledge that there are some people that might not have all that context to know exactly what you're talking about, what happened and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what comes in with judged battles too. Is and that's the fun thing I think that balances. And I think that's what sharpens the sword of so many battlers. Because when you're on a regular battle rap league, let's say you're on Gates of the Garden, you're on OSBL, you're on a different league. The main thing that's most important is your footage being good. And when your footage drops on YouTube, people can be like, I like this footage. I want to watch it. I want to share it. I want to do all that. I want to like it, comment, and all that stuff. Whereas on iBattle, you want people to watch you on YouTube and like your performance, but at the same time, you want the judges in the building to pick you at the same time. So you have to be like, okay, well, I have to sacrifice this from the YouTube crowd if it's more catered to the judges. The judges are like more. I have to sacrifice this from the judges if I know the YouTube or like the viewers will appreciate this more. So I think that's what makes a lot of iBattle battlers so dangerous because we're so used to having to tailor stuff for the building and getting the crowd behind us, but at the same and getting the judges behind us as well. But at the same time, knowing it's going to live on YouTube forever and then continue for a crowd. So it's like certain things you got to like you got to pick and choose with certain stuff for sure. But the other moment I was going to say was where silence factors in. This is the first time I've ever needed a water break mid bar. I forgot which the bar was. I set a bar to Los in the third. I forgot what the bar was. I start to run it back. So I started running back, and then I grabbed the water, and then everyone kind of just finishes it, but they finish it so quietly. So you just hear faintly, you hear the crowd say it, and you just hear me. All right, and then but I was right back to it. But it was probably like a second or two. That 2 seconds feels like 10 minutes. Like because of the crowd, when it's quiet, it just feels like time is like crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's been battles I watched back where I'm like, there was a little pause there. It felt awkward in the building, and I watch it back, and it was literally like a breath. And I go, oh, okay, cool, I can breathe. That's good.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's like I can only tell you my perspective as a fan, right? Like, so I mean, I again, like, you know, it's like it's funny because like, you know, you point out like kind of like these flaws that you notice, I think, within your own performance, that and then you say like the battles, and like I'm like these are like the best battles. Like
Yeah,
they're like
yeah. No one
like
ever.
respectfully,
Yeah.
like I was trying to think. What was the one that you did in UK in like a parking lot or whatever?
Well,
Yeah,
well.
that was the one where I felt like maybe I could see like it's just like the crowd wasn't quite as like reactive, and
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't an eye battle crowd. It was just like they were a little bit more subdued. That
Mhm.
one I was like a little bit more like
Yeah.
there were some like kind of spots where I was like, okay, well, like things weren't landing, but I also felt the same way about your opponent, Quill's fire, but like I just think the crowd wasn't super. I don't know there. I don't know what and there's always the context that nobody outside of battle rap ever like watches a rap battle
Yeah.
thinking about the context of the crowd, but like
Yeah.
that crowd could have been there, for 8 hours waiting for the first battle. And then it's like 2 a.m. at night. And like you just watched like 10 different battles. And like nobody looks at a battle and thinks like, oh, yeah, that crowd is tired out because of like
Oh
all
no,
of
they
these
were.
logistic reasons.
Yeah, they were just outside. A lot of people was just like they saw Quill's coat and my coat, and they're just like, "Y'all couldn't have been that cold." I was like, "I was not only was it cold, and we're outside. The camera doesn't really. The camera it doesn't look like it. It was raining,
Right.
like it's drizzling. But
Yeah, yeah.
it was. I think like there's also the way I write too. I always say if the crowd is like very involved and interruptive and informative, then okay, it's a movie. Let's turn up. Let's make it a party. But if the crowd is more subdued and it's more like off on us, I always take that as a cue. As we up the intensity of the battle becomes more intense because it's just us. Like it's like the crowd is there, but it's more like okay, the bars. Like one of my favorite performances is Loaded Lux's performance for Sue Surf because there's nobody there and he's just rapping. And I'll just love and the Mook's performance for Tay Rock as well, where like when you can just rap and uninterrupted. I think some of that sounds amazing. So I usually write my rounds like that for that type of crowd, where there could be no interruptions at all. That way, when I get interrupted, it's more of an interruption rather than me being like, and then here comes the punchline. Anybody? No, like I don't think I try to like have it like fluid instead. But I used to when I first started, I was doing that a lot. Like I'd be like, here's the punchline. Most of the time it would work. And then
Yeah.
sometimes it wouldn't. I go, oh shit, that's weird. All right, next bar.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than when you think a bar is going to land and it gets crickets. And then like, you just got to sit in that silence.
Or
But
when you think you're gonna bomb, you think you're gonna shatter the building, and you get the dreaded.
all right.
What
So
else? It's like what else? That was the best bar in the round.
I know I spent 8 hours like trying to come up with like how to word this perfectly, and then like I in my head I practice it over and over, and I'm like, oh, the crowd is gonna go fucking nuts, and they're just like,
Yeah. You're like, this is gonna shatter the building. I'm going viral. I'm gonna be a world star. And they're just like, yeah, man, talk that Popeyes shit. That's it. Next bar. Oh man.
But yeah, I'm also taking notes like for myself. All right, I wrote down if the crowd is dead, I need to up my intensity. All right, I'm learning from you. I'm older than you. I've been doing it
Yeah,
longer
I
than
go,
you.
okay, like, okay, the crowd is. But once I peep, I go, this is not going to be like, all right, 4 bar, it's gonna be. I'm gonna rap for like 16, and I'm gonna get like 16. So I'm like, okay, let me just make it more like those COVID or even the rooftop battles are a good example too. B Dot and Saga. I think what Geechee and Chilla was up there. Those type of battles are good. B Dot and Nitty as well.
I was gonna ask, when did you kind of like where did the impression thing come from? Like I know you did it like as a means of like, okay, we're having fun, we're doing these battles, and we're like emulating battlers that we like, but like where did the talent for that, like where did the ability to be able to, because I only ask because like I've heard of like stand-up comedians and people who are even like professional impressionists, they always tend to have an origin story of like, when I was young I used to listen to like this on audio. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said like they had like a parent that was like hard of hearing or something, or like I don't know, either way, like they pick it up somewhere, like it's like they're around something that allows them to be like, oh, I'm gonna take this and emulate it, and then that helps them like become good at it. Did that happen for you, or was it just I woke up one day, started doing impression battles on Twitter, and I was incredible? Like,
Well, so So it's funny because I think I have like I don't know what the actual term is. I know it's not the real term, but like you know how people have photographic memory.
Yeah.
I think I have like like I know audiographic isn't a word, but that's how I
Yeah,
feel like my
it's like
memory is.
perfect pitch, but like with like, understanding like, I don't know, certain things people are doing. I don't know.
Yeah, because my mom has a photographic memory, like, and she would be able to like do like some scary shit. Like I would be like one time I think we were on a cruise and I needed some type of medicine and I asked her if they had it downstairs. And she said I was just at the store and then she literally closes her eyes and then she starts like moving her hand. She goes, yeah, it should be right to the left by this thing. And I'm like, okay. And then I went down there and it's literally there. And I go, yeah, that's terrifying. Like, I see something, I won't remember it. Like I'll forget. I'll come back to a place I've been and don't even recognize it. Like, oh, I was here. Yeah, I guess I was here. But with audio, I could do that though. I can just piece back like anything I heard and just recreate it, which helps with like obviously memory for battles and stuff. But I guess that might help with the impersonations. When I was a kid, I could only do two impressions. I could do Lil Wayne, and I could do Barack Obama. When I was a kid, it was only I could do. I was like,
wait. Can I get either? Can I get both? Can you do?
Yeah. So as a kid,
Wait. What is Lil Wayne doing an impression of Barack Obama? Well, just one at a time. Pick a thing.
Yeah, one of the yeah, it's like my fellow Americans. I used to love doing the Wayne impression, and the Obama was just today we're going to have to figure out a way to lower the deficit, and I was just like do the cadences, and then I think those are two good impressions I think to start with because the main thing with those impressions aren't necessarily the voice, but it's the mannerisms, it's the characteristic things, like the little. It's like that's the small thing that's important. Even if you don't get the voice or the pitch or the tone correct, the little details. Like when I'm doing the Lux impersonation, saying man at the end of some bars, man, you was saying that shit like man, like the little just like the little like character things.
Yeah.
So even if the voice isn't, it ties it together a lot better. And it's so funny how we started doing them. When I was on Discord, one thing I used to do was like predictions for battles, and then one of them actually went viral. That's how like I got a little bit more buzz on Twitter when I did the Drake card predictions. It was like I would basically have everyone on the card, and I would be like real sick on the Drake card, gonna be like, and then it'd be like a little 4-bar that he might do versus Pat, and then like Pat Stay gonna be like, and it's like a little 4-bar Pat would do for sick, and I would just continue doing those for every match on the card.
Right.
So I was already doing that, and Kai, again, I gotta credit Kai. He had a game we used to play on Discord called Stolen Madness. That was my favorite game ever. It's basically like it would be a 3-round battle, and you could do it. And it's funny because you can do this on the drop of a dime. You have to battle somebody else, but the rule is you can't use any of your. You have to use a round that was already rapped by somebody, and you have to rap that round. So
you have to like have it memorized though.
No, you can read it from your phone.
Okay.
But he said who can steal the better round. So it's all right, round 1 is on you, and then it's like. All right, it's for my niggas up north getting full off that jack, man. And it's like, damn, you picked this round. So it's all right, round 2 is on you, and you gotta like steal a better round. So you go like, all right, y'all thought he was gonna beat me to death. He died first. Right. That's how the game used to have, and we basically combined the ideas where he was like, you want to write a round as easy to block captain, and I'll write around as Kid Slade, and we'll battle in spaces in 30 minutes. That's what he said, in 30 minutes from now. I said. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And that was the first one we ever did. Yeah, so we just went on me for like 30 minutes, and everyone in the space is like, are they serious? Are they trolling? We're gonna figure it out, I guess. And then 30 minutes later, it's like, all right, let's do the battle. And then we did it, and they were like, yo, do it again. What you mean?
Like that's not enough. Like it's not enough to come up with a battle in 30 minutes, but to be like, all right,
like,
now do another one.
Tomorrow. I was like, yeah, tomorrow. So who you want to do? I said, I don't know. I'll be Mook. He was like, all right, I'll be Twerk. And then once like we found out like people really liked them, we were like, we just record. We can just we have them recorded. We could just put them on YouTube, and then they just took off. Which I think it's an algorithmic trick too, because it's phrased like a rap battle. Like in these types, it's like Murder Mook versus it's like impersonation battle. Murder Mook versus the Twerk. So it gets it into the algorithm with the real rap battles as well. So that probably helped out a lot. But they just took off crazy.
Yeah, I mean, The thing is that like a lot of people already do that like type of trick to they'll be like, this is a battle between Joe Blow and like who gives a fuck, and it's hosted
Yeah.
by Pat Stay or
Yeah.
hosted by like some big
Hosted by the cheat code, yeah.
yeah. You get to put the name of the bigger like the draw and. This is,
Yeah.
who gives a fuck versus who gives a fuck, but it's hosted by Hulk Hogan, that type of thing.
Yeah,
That's
and it's funny because when we got to the point where like battlers would pull up, because that was another cool thing too, is it happened in spaces. So battlers, all they would have to do was go on their phone to jump in and listen. It was to the point where we had Geechee Gotti and Tay Rock in the space while we were doing the impersonation battles.
right.
And thankfully Kai thought of this on top. He goes, "Hey Geechee, Rock, y'all wanna?" Well, no, he just said, "Hey Rock, you wanna host it?" And Rock goes, "Yeah, I can host it. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just..." So and then Rock starts hosting it, and he goes, "And I got my co-host Geechee Gotti with me. Geechee, say what's up to him." I'm like, "What?" And then Geechee's like, "Yeah, cuz we ain't." so we did it, and this was Hollow versus T-Top, I think it was. It was the person battle. So that battle was titled Hollow versus T-Top, hosted by Rock and Geechee. And half of the comments goes, "Yo, y'all impersonations are so good. I can't tell if that's actually Rock and Geechee or you guys are just impersonating Rock and Geechee." And I was like, "That's really him. That's really him."
That's
But, yeah,
like
that
the
was pretty
weird, the like kind of like double edge of like, the battle rap. Because we are talking about it earlier about like kind of like we have big name battle rappers and those people
Yeah.
sometimes will communicate maybe too much with like the fan base. But I also love and appreciate the fact that like, some of those battlers, communicate with the fan base, because the fact that like, Rock and Geechee like didn't feel like they were too big to go, sit in and listen to like, some impression battle on Twitter, like that's fire to me. Like I think that's so necessary to keep the culture moving forward and so forth. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a thought.
Yeah, it is double-edged sword. I think it was when it was more like the original way it was, like we would only hear for the live battlers if it was like they were judging one of the spaces battles, or they were giving feedback, or they were when it became like just casual, I think like hanging out in the spaces with the fans and like becoming like, I guess, like friends with the fans. That's when it became more of like, okay, well now the fans are kind of becoming like a little bit more, I guess, important. There's not like a really barrier of separation.
Right.
And I guess it really all depends on the battler itself. I think some battlers, more exposure and talking to the fans is a good thing. Like when we first got in spaces, most of the people that were in spaces, the first live battlers that ever noticed us were the guys from like the UM4 tournament. So it'd be like Swervo and DG the Piranha, and they would Micah and Elijah Strait, like they would be in the spaces with us, and that was like a mutual beneficial thing because they're newer battle rappers to URL, so they're like getting like Kid Slade would be in there all the time, and they're like getting the fans to know their personalities. But then when you got certain battlers like a top tier, like a Hitman Holla, like he really doesn't gain anything. Not that he can't join spaces, but he doesn't stand anything to benefit from the spaces really. So it's really, I guess it depends on the battler.
Right. All right, so I'm gonna end this with two things. Number one, I'm just gonna leave it open for you, and then I'll ask you a question at the end, just just a fun question or whatever.
Gotcha.
But like, so the first thing I wanted to just double check, is there anything in particular you feel like we haven't, talked about that is worth talking about on your mind? Is there anything coming up that you want to promo that you haven't had an opportunity to yet? Is there anybody you want to give shout outs to? Anything like that? Closing, last call for, words you'll never say.
So I have two battles that are unannounced. So I'm going to speak about both of them vaguely. To my first, because I have East West and then I have two battles that are unannounced. So to my first opponent after East, and the funny part is they don't know which one is, so if they both watch it, they won't even know. To my first opponent after East West, good luck, much respect. I respect you very highly, and I think we're going to have a very fun battle. Let's just have fun. To my second opponent, much respect. I respect you very highly. I am not trying to have a fun battle. I would like to obliterate you and put you under the sun. But So it was
This is by the way our announcement. I'm battling Oppa, purely deaf. He's gonna obliterate me.
Hey, as soon as we stop recording, I'll tell you both battle and you'll see exactly why.
All right,
You'll
all
get
right.
that too. But also, shout out to Eunice, man. Big shout out to Eunice, battling chess on Gnome.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be in the building for that. So that's my first time being in the building for Gnome.
Is
That should be fun.
that's this weekend, right? Or
Yeah, it's this weekend. And shouts out to Low Supreme, Archduke Redcat, and Nakim the Prophet, and a big EGL shout out to JR for the Final Four of the Captain's Cup tournament. That will be the week after. No, I'll be in the building for that too, so that should be very fun. And then yeah, I think that's all I got.
all right.
Oh, I don't. Well, is it announced? Is it? I don't know. Maybe I could announce it here. I'll announce it here. Culture Fest, which is the day after Hitman Holla and Murder Mook's card in Houston, Texas. It's like a music festival for battle rappers that make music. And I will.
Oh, it's all battle
Houston.
rappers that make music?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will be in Houston that weekend. I'm just saying, and I'm not battling on the card. I'm not gonna boo.
All right.
I may or may not be in Culture Fest. I'll be there. I may or may not be performing at Culture Fest. I don't know if it's announced yet, so I'll just keep it vague. I may or may not be performing. Who knows?
Gotcha. All right. So all right, I want to close with two things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The very first one, I just want to ask you a question. I want you to pick one person. You only get one person. All right.
Gotcha.
No matter. I mean, you can list off your honorable mentions if you want to, but
Yeah.
give me. And I'm doing the battle rap podcast thing, but whatever. We've been talking about battle rap a lot. We're gonna center on that.
Right.
Number one, give me one person who you think 1 year from now or 2 years from now will be at the level that you and Eunice are at. Like, who do you think is, or who's really going to make a big, like somebody we don't know, like you probably know because they're in the spaces, they're coming up. Who do you think is going to really break through and make some kind of big splash?
I'm glad you gave me the option to do an honorable mention as well.
Yeah, I don't want to be too mean about it, but like, I mean, I know people are going to get offended because you only get one, so you can't really.
If I have to pick one, I think science has proven every fact in the known universe. And battling Glowman is as real as it gets. I think Glowman's personality, his style, and his reference bag is a crazy combination. And I definitely think with the right promotion and the right moves and platforms, I think Glowman could just take off. I really do. So I'd have to say Glowman.
Right. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Honorable mentions.
Snowman.
I think, I would say.
Can't mention Glowman without Snowman.
Honorable mentions, I would say Dreddy from OSBL. I think Dreddy's rapidly improving. I think I like his battle with the 6'8". I like his battle with Deontay Ellis. I think Dreddy's been getting better and better, and he's good at promoting himself too. He kind of carries himself like almost like a villain swagger. I always say he kind of reminds me of OSBL Mike in a way where he's not afraid to be the villain or shake the table or just be like, oh no, this is ass. When he thinks something is ass, he's not afraid to. So I think that's definitely a good character to push in battle rap as well. And then last time I mention, Twice 203, I do the most. So listen close. Shout out to Twice. Twice is just so creative and he's so young too. Twice 19, 18.
Yeah, the only issue with Twice is has he been battling live since maybe Lou Castro?
Yeah, he hasn't been battling because of school. He just did his senior year of high school. So I guess now that he's graduated out,
they need to take him out of third grade and just let him do some raps.
He's battling in the summer, and it's like, yo, would you think of battling in September? It's like, I can't, got a test.
Yeah. No, I feel it. I get it. I mean, I understand it. And then so the very last thing I wanted to end with, I actually stole this from another podcast, but it could be anything. I do ask that it's not battle rap related. But what I would like for you to do is come up with a question And then whatever that question is, I'm going to ask that question to whoever my next guest is the next time I do a podcast. So it could be serious, it could be funny, it could be anything you can imagine. I just ask that it's not like, specific to that.
I would ask the next guest if they had a podcast, what would be a question that they would make sure to ask every person that went on the show?
All right. And this is the point where if I had, like, this is my first time actually asking. If I had already done this with I think
From the other person, you'd be like,
yeah.
well, you see,
I think the last person I did would have been with I was doing an interview with Archduke, and like he would have given me a question. I would be asking it to you. So
Yes.
I don't know, but like I'm gonna hold on to that, and then the next time I do a podcast, I will ask somebody. But that's gonna conclude this. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and doing this interview. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. You're an incredible talent. You're an incredible person, and all the fucking flowers I can give you. And that's it.
Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right, see you.